Quiet of the night where dreams take flight. Voices whisper softly, shining like the stars so bright. Every heart has a story, don't you ever forget. Let's open our minds, share the journey, no regret. Here we gather, a circle of hope, sharing laughter and tears, we learn just how to cope. Every tale we tell, it helps to heal our souls. In the space of understanding, together we become whole. So let the words flow, let the music rise. In your head with Shannon, the stories come alive. Every heartbeat echoes where our spirits thrive. From fears to triumphs, we'll paint the skies anew. In this podcast journey, I'm here with you.
My name is Brian Pillman Jr., and you are listening to In Your Head with Shannon Standiford.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining me on this wonderful podcast of mine, In Your Head with Shannon Standiford. I am Shannon Standiford, and welcome to episode 99. The last episode before the next big show. But this episode, is not just a filler episode to get me to the 100. This episode is one that I've been trying to put together for a while with an old friend of mine, Jessie. Now, Jessie is a wonderful, wonderful woman who is a single mom. She's gone through some stuff, and if you are a mother, you will understand this woman's plight. The struggles, and you will be inspired, I pray, by her willing to transform. Not just her life, but the life that she has around her for the sake of her son. And as a parent myself, I have all the respect in the world for that. So just know this episode is great. It's always great to catch up with old friends, and it's always great to see how well people are doing. But you guys are going to love this episode because she's lovely. She's smart. She's dedicated. She's beautiful. She has all that. So let's get into Jessie's head. Take it away. Jessie, thank you so much for coming on. It's been so long since I've got to see your face somewhat kind of in person.
Right?
So, first of all, how you been?
I'm good. I'm doing good. Moved out of Missouri, and I can't complain. I'm
I don't blame you at all. So, we spoke a couple times, and the first question is the most basic of it. What was Jessie's childhood like?
Jesse's childhood. I mean, when you look at it, when I describe my childhood, or let's say you're an outside perspective and you look at my childhood, I had two very loving parents. I have amazing siblings. I had the beautiful house. I had the fence. I had the backyard that my dad created to be a big play gym with the house that matched our house that I could have tea parties in. I mean, looking in, I had the storybook childhood. But I think when you become an adult, and you go through that like teenage angst, right? You start getting angry. You start thinking, why did this happen? Why did this happen? And I think it's not until you become an adult, a mother, a father, therapy, that you start to realize that it was all misplaced anger. So now that I'm a mother and I'm doing it by myself and I see my parents' struggles or why certain things happen, the anger has completely left. So I think it goes through phases. I think as a child, I thought I had everything. And then as a high schooler, college kid, before I became a mother, I was so set on my parents made all these mistakes. My sisters, weren't loyal, or they did mistakes and I had to step up, but I think that's just part of being a family and having um like the family, the house, the things, and not everything's perfect. But as a child, your parents shield you. I think my parents did a great job of shielding me from any hurt, any worry, financial struggles, anything they ever had. So I'm very blessed. But I think everybody goes through that stage of um, anger, denial.
Mhm.
So I think it's maturity, it's therapy, it's living it and realizing, wow, it's my parents' first time living. It's also mine. Parenthood is hard.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Um, before we get to that part, let's talk about how so you grew up in Missouri, and then and that's how I got to know you because we worked together, and I loved working with you. By the way, I miss working with you. Uh, the people that I work with now. I look back, there's that quote from The Office of the good old days, and I think back to working with you and Sarah and all
Oh,
them
yeah.
as as I a little reminiscing time. Do you remember Greg?
Yes.
Okay, so I seen him the other day,
Hmm.
and uh, I every time I see him, I keep thinking about how much you just, for some reason, no matter what you did, you weren't even like mean or just irritating at all, but he just could not stand
I'm
you.
sure.
And I loved every single second of it. The torture that anytime he worked with you, he was just like, oh my God, I can't stand working with her. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
I love her. I don't know what the problem is.
People just don't like happy people.
I guess he's a miserable guy, and God bless him.
Well, usually
He's
the miserable people love me. They like flock.
yeah,
But
that's true.
yeah, they don't, I don't know. Some people just,
I don't.
well,
I guess, but yeah. So, all right. So, while we were working together, at some point, you ended up moving back east. What was that decision, and what was that transition like for you?
that decision, and like I said earlier, like I feel like when you're in the moment of something, you think, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. How will I ever get past this?" And
Mhm.
you know, um, that was a really low point in my life, but also a very pivotal moment in my life. Um, my parents had just moved back to Connecticut. Um, I decided to stay there by myself. Were they happy about it? Probably not. But I think that they both knew that I needed to kind of find myself, and that was staying in Missouri. Um, I, after therapy and like looking back and in the moment, I knew it was bad, but I don't think I realized how bad it was, the situation I was in. So, I was dating this guy that I dated in high school that I was madly in love with. And I thought this was my end all be all, that it was Cameron, Missouri. It was this man. It was his family was my family. And I hate saying this, but as you get older, it is true. You look at your backgrounds with somebody, right?
Mhm.
I was never meant to stay in that position. And some people are. We came from very different backgrounds as this man. We had completely different families. We had completely different everything. Um, it was like two worlds clashing, like coming together. And so being in that, I started realizing, and I don't think I realized it until other situations in my life came up. I don't think I realized how much I was belittling myself. Um, and not to say that I'm like this person that just is destined for greatness, but I wasn't destined for that. I was losing a lot of my morals that my parents engraved in me, um, trying to be fit who this person wanted. I was, I was very unhappy looking back. I was living in an apartment that I could barely afford working at Country Mart, um, struggling. And I was giving my early 20s, my 18, 19, 20, to a man that was cheating on me, who I knew deep down it was never going to go anywhere. It was never, but it was like living in that fantasy. And something clicked in my head one day. Um, and it ultimately turned from just the cheating and manipulating and the narcissistic behavior that wasn't just him, but I think, and I agree, like, because I've done this before, it's your family. So at the end of the day, like, I see, let's just say, for example, if I see my sisters doing something, I might pull them aside and say, like, what are you doing? But on the outside, no one would ever see that. They would see me defending my sister. So I think that's what was happening was, his family was getting involved and defending. And my family lived in Connecticut, and I think I was an easy target to just shut up and accept all of this. And it was like a switch in my head one day that there was no like, this wasn't it. I needed more. I needed to be back with my family. Um, and that's what happened. One day this person was in the military, um, away for the weekend, and I'll never forget calling my dad and saying, I want to leave. I don't want to be here anymore. I can't do this anymore. And he told me, do not pick this man up. Get in your car, pack your stuff, get your dog, and drive. I'll meet you in Ohio. And I somewhat listened, but not fully. And I think, which very like me, I think that he knew. I think like deep down he knew something was going on. I ended up picking this man up and it ended up becoming physical. Um, to the point where I did not have time to pack anything. I had my dog with me and I left him right there when he finally got out of the vehicle and I met my father in Ohio. I drove from Missouri to Ohio at 8:30 at night. I left. And my dad was waiting for me at a Burger King in Ohio and followed me all the way back from Ohio to Connecticut. And I've been here ever since. And it hasn't been easy, but these little things in your life, you go through experiences and you think, I don't like that, or I like that, and you learn something from each. So, you know, yeah, I stayed longer
Yeah.
than I should have. But I'm, everything, every mistake, every accomplishment, every positive, every negative leads you to a greater path. And ultimately, everything that I've done has led me to my son. So it all, comes together.
So how refresh my memory because it's been forever.
Mhm.
Uh, how long from the minute that you got to Connecticut to your son being born? What was that time? How long was that time frame?
Um, I moved here in 2014. Or no, I'm sorry, December 2013, so close to 2014. And then I moved to Florida in 2018. And I
Mm-hmm.
stayed there until December. December is like a thing for me.
Apparently, yeah,
Um,
it's a new beginning kind of month
right?
for you.
I stayed there until December 2021, and have I got pregnant with my son April 2022. and had him January 2023.
So, why Florida?
So I had met my boyfriend at the time. I went, a long span of time without, I was just trying to find myself. I think when you spend your teen years and until you're 20 in a relationship, like you're trying to find yourself, you're trying to figure out, what do I like? What do I not like? What will I accept? What will I not accept? So that man was pretty pivotal. And then I met my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend, and he wanted to move to Florida for schooling. And so, it was like a decision. It was like a last minute decision for me to move. We had decided that we were not going to be together when he moved. And then last minute it was move with me. And I think Florida is what I needed. I met some of my dearest friends there. I got to live by the ocean.
I mean, we can't hate that.
Right. COVID hit. I was working at a hospital. So I learned a lot during that time. I think overall, even though I was in a relationship, I think that part taught me so much independence. I know they say don't get into these long-term relationships in your 20s and find yourself and take that time to find yourself, but I truly believe that I did find myself during that. Yeah, I learned a lot, and I've taken everything from that to now.
So when you got pregnant,
Mhm.
and I'm going to try to navigate this without having to blast the father because I don't know him.
Mhm.
What led to you being the single mom that you are?
Did I think that it was going to play out like this? Absolutely not.
None of us ever do.
Right. Like I said, I was with the man in Florida, my ex-boyfriend, for a long time. And that's like another thing I'll hit on because I truly believe this, and I think a lot of people need to hear this. But what your question was, it was like a 5-month span between ending things and getting pregnant. And I don't think anybody goes into parenthood thinking they're doing it alone. So I don't think that I know in my head, I did not think that this was how any of it was going to happen. Obviously, it was unplanned, but yeah, some people I think are, without going into too much detail about him, I think some people are fully aware that they're completely incapable of being a stable person in somebody's life, especially a child's. I held a lot of anger for a long time, and it hasn't been until the last few months that I've let go of that. I do respect him in his own way. He's a very straightforward man. I mean, it's not like you ever have to second guess where you stand with this person.
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes back to childhood. I think a lot of things in people's lives go back to their childhood. And I think that it takes a very big person. And like I said with the misangered or misplaced anger earlier, I think the emotions are heightened when, you have something unexpected like a child. But I think so there's misplaced anger, and then you guys finally have the maturity to sit down, and I think it takes a big person to know that they are not capable physically, emotionally, financially to be involved, and that's for the better of the child. And so I think that's something I admire. And speaking of him, you feel better? Okay. Well, I'm on a call. Can you go upstairs? Okay. Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay, go upstairs.
I'll look your eyes.
Okay, babe. Go watch your iPad.
It's so adorable.
No, I'm on a call right now. Can you go upstairs and then we'll eat ice cream after? Yeah, I think it all comes with maturity. Okay, get your binky and come sit in my lap. Get your binky. I think it takes a lot of maturity. I think it takes a lot of, things in your life. You have to experience things in your life to fully grasp and understand why people do things. And I think hurt people hurt people.
Yep.
It's unintentional.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you just have to recognize people and take their actions and their words with a grain of salt, and just sometimes a family is just a mom and her kid, and that's okay.
Yes. Yes, that is perfectly fine.
Okay.
It's taking a party again.
Honey, you go sit. You sit right here. Okay. You sit right here, but no talking, okay?
No one's on there.
It's Shannon. He's something.
He is.
Can you go upstairs? You want ice cream? Okay, will you go upstairs if I give it to you? Okay. Hold on, Shannon. Come here.
And so I'll fill the gap here until she gets back. Being a single, like that episode like a while ago, being a single parent, whenever you're trying to do something, there's never a moment where a child doesn't say, "Hey, eyes on me, attention," So, I mean, it's a hard part about being a single parent. So, it's just, it's just one of those moments where you have to do what you got to do to keep that thing happy. And by thing, I mean the child.
Sorry.
It's okay. It happens. Like I said, I had an episode with a guy named Willie, and his daughter was right there.
I feel like we're 3 now. So I'm scared. We're like really, really clingy. So take it.
Have you seen that TikTok, like the little boy or girl that's like, "I'm scared. What are you scared of? The broccoli?" Have you seen that TikTok?
No, but that sounds like my son. Yeah, he's always, "I'm scared." I'm like, "Of what?" "Well, because you made me mad earlier." I'm like, "That what? How did it scare you?" "I don't know. I need a snack." I'm like, "You're just talking to talk."
At some point in there's logic that relates to having a snack.
Yeah.
We just haven't found that logic yet.
I think that he knows that when he just comes out, "Can I have a snack?" "No, you can eat dinner." So he has to, put some emotion behind. So
Yeah. So anyway, we'll get back to the question. When you became a mom, and it was very clear that you were going to be basically, I mean, I without knowing the extent of the help that you get, when you found out that you were going to kind of basically be doing it on your own, take us through, those moments.
I knew early. I knew.
Did you?
Yes. Like I said, you never know, like you never not know where you stand with this person.
Mm-hmm.
So, he did not want children. And I did. And I was 29, and it was an oops on both of our parts. And I asked him point blank, do you want to be involved? It was no, 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 you know, pushing for other outcomes. He was, and I was standing strong. And I think that, you know, I just knew deep down that I could do it, that I could be a single mom. So I knew within like literally about 2 weeks after I found out I was pregnant, I knew I was going to be a single mom. I did my pregnancy by myself. I gave birth with my mom and my sister in the room. And I lived with my parents until my son was 8 months old to kind of get back on my feet and help a little bit with postpartum. And then I moved out, and me and my son have been living here by ourselves for about 2.5 years. And yeah, so I knew pretty early that, but I think, I don't know, I think that it's like a feeling that's completely undescribed. Like, I can't say it as a father because I'm a mother, but when you know that
Obviously.
you have a child growing inside you, it's an overwhelming feeling of like love, and this is my baby immediately. And I know, like, I've heard sometimes, you know, it takes the father a little bit longer, but yeah, it was something I wasn't okay with parting with. I was having this baby whether you're here or not. And, you know, that was my choice, and his choice was to not be involved, and I think both are okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I mean, I'm not a super big fan of the men that don't have much to do with the child that they created's life. But that's more shit that I went through. So, uh, so I'm a little biased on that. But, you know, if you're honest about it, and, you know, and you got that strong, I'm going to do this personality that you have, then, you know,
Yeah.
to each their own, I guess.
Well, I'm trying to be a good person. So,
I know you're trying to be a good person.
you know, what am I going to say? Like,
Well,
it's like a
here's
devil
the thing.
on my shoulder, you know? Like, I'm like, I get it. You know, you had this going on in your life and you're not capable. And then on this side, I look at my son and I'm like, you know, like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah, I know. I get that.
he's intelligent, he's funny, he's like, you just look at your child and you're like, how would you not want to be involved? And then on the other side, as somebody who has gone to therapy and has worked through a lot of things in my life, you know, let's say before therapy, part of me is like sitting right here where I'm like, he's just not healed. He just hasn't done the work. And then the other side's like, well, then heal. Like, you clearly know that you're like in the wrong, so heal. So it, like, you know, it weighs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get it. You know what's the funny part to me in all this is I knew you before being a mom, and I've, you know, we've kind of kept in touch a little bit. So like I've seen a lot of your stuff on social media and just a limited time. And I do remember all those times that I think you were in Florida, we'd had a few phone calls.
Mhm.
So I've seen the before, and just watching the now.
Mhm.
I have to say, out of all the people that I've known that have gone through some of the stuff that you kind of went through, you're probably the most well-adjusted out of all of them.
I think
Which is surprising, because aren't you like Puerto Rican?
and Polish.
Yeah, so I mean, there's that temper that I know you can have.
Scared. But I feel like now that I'm an adult, I really push it down. But
I feel like you have to.
I was just talking to my mom about, I read the book, The Let Them Theory.
Uh-huh.
And I think that like really, so like in the last, I don't know, 3 months or so, I've completely like been transforming my life. There was one night, and it was after a lovely, lovely man that I have no complaints about. We went our separate ways. There was a misunderstanding, and he saw things that I didn't see, and I think that it opened my eyes to a lot. And I remember I sat down and I wrote out a list of things that hurt me, things that I needed to let go, things that I wanted to transform in my life. And within the last 3 months, I've just been checking things off. And the let them theory really helps when you have some anger issues. It's just basically like, just let them. Like, if this person is talking poorly of you, me that you knew in high school and 18, 19, 20, that was not my theory.
No.
I've always been very
No.
outspoken. I've always been very straightforward. I'm one of those people where you won't have to guess where you stand in my life or how I view you. You will know immediately. Yeah, that theory really works.
I've heard that, and it is a very solid theory. Whenever it comes to dealing with people and dealing with yourself.
Yeah.
So,
But back to what you were saying about, I forget exactly what you said. You said, like, I've been through a lot,
mhm.
I truly, every time I go through something in my life, my dad's voice plays through my head. And shout out dad. He's great. What goes through my head is, you don't like the ice cream cone? Okay. Okay, we'll throw it away.
He's very passionate about that ice cream cone.
He's me. He's like literally me 2.0. Okay, go in the bathroom and wash your hands, please.
What?
Nope, I'm on a call. Okay. What plays in my head is my dad talking to me about there's two types of people. And hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Oh, I love kids. They are great. A great sense of enjoyment whenever there's other people. Oh, it's okay.
What plays in my head though is my father, and he always told me that there are two types of people. There's somebody who crumbles to the pressures and, the bad things that happen in their life, and there's a person who completely eats it and transforms. And so that has always played in my head. Um, you know, like, use it as fuel. Every person who's ever treated you less than you thought you deserved, or every single person who has, talked poorly about you or said you can't do this, or, anything like that, use that as fuel. Take it all and think, is this where do I want to be stagnant or do I want to move forward? And, you could come into my home and look at my life and think, she doesn't have it all. She doesn't, but to me, I do. And I think that the fuel that I have, from my family or people who have talked bad about me, or even my father or my son's father, doubting me of doing it by myself. Like, I love this life. I have a beautiful home. I have a nice car. I have a happy, intelligent son. I have everything that I need, and to me, that's success. So I do think that with everything that I've endured and everything I've gone through, I've learned from it. I've taken the lessons. Um, yeah, and I think when I look at myself, I think I'm proud of myself. And
As you should be.
I think that my son one day is going to look at me. I hope, anyways, but I truly believe, I think that he will see me as a strong person, somebody who didn't give up, somebody who kept going. My son didn't go without, and I think that that's an accomplishment. I think that, everything that I have, I've worked extremely hard for, and I've had barriers and I've had hoops that I've had to go through, and it is true. Anybody listening, listen to your parents. They do know
Yeah.
best. They are just talking to talk. They don't want their children to suffer and have to do things the hard way. So listen to them. They're right.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know how many times I've come across some stuff in my life, and immediately I'd call my mom and be like, "I get it now, Mom. I'm sorry. I was an idiot."
Right. I remember like always thinking, oh my God, my mom is crazy. Like, who cares? If she would like tell us something, I'm not cooking dinner. I'm like, lazy.
Yeah,
Ew, pork
yeah,
chops for dinner, lazy. And now I'm like, chicken nuggets, mac and cheese.
yeah,
So there's just like things that like you see, which like I said earlier, like you won't know until you
yeah.
become a parent or anything like become an adult. I'm like, yeah, they were right. Should I have stayed in Missouri? In my head, there was no stopping me. I was going to be independent and I was staying there and whatever. And my parents just were like, okay, and moved back. I should have listened to you guys. The next time, my dad's like, I don't think you should move to Florida. I'm like, yeah, right. You know nothing. And he was right. Like, he's usually right. And when, also like with friends, I've really learned that. Like, even I'm turning 33 next week. And usually, when my parents, the first time they say, get this person out of your life, listen to them. They know. And I never thought I would be 33 dealing with mean girls, but it still happens. I am shocked because I've never, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely delusional. Shannon, you've known me for a long time.
Hmm.
I've never considered myself to be a mean girl. Oh no,
I,
am I?
I will say, hold on. I will say, you had glimpses of being a mean girl. Um, glimpses. Very few days that I met since I'd met you, especially whenever we worked together. I seen you way more than most people. You had glimpses, like, and it could have just been you were just having a bad day, and and now it's we have the benefit of hindsight. Like everything that you were going through at the time, you could justify it. But I always thought you were very, like, whenever we were talking earlier about us working together, you were very happy and you were very perky and you were very, in some, depending on who was working, very very annoying with that. I enjoyed it, and I think it's because people, like, well, you know me. I mean, it wasn't just because we worked together. Like, we interacted well. We got along very well. There was always, I always like to think that, there's always something either about the person, because I don't really like to view myself in any other way than just, I'm just there.
Right.
But I like to think that, I'm always drawn to people for some reason, and it's never because I work with them, because God knows don't give a shit about work.
Right.
I never, like, especially back then, I was like, it was a job. I just enjoyed hanging out with, like, people, and you were one of them. And I, teenagers then, I mean, I worked with a bunch of you. So, like, I always felt like,
Upset and offended, and then I'm like, wait, I was 19.
yeah,
Every 19-year-old girl is moody.
yeah,
I mean,
they
I
are.
now too.
What's funny about it is, like, we, the, while you're talking and you're like, yeah, I turned 33 next week, and to me, you're still that 19-year-old.
Yeah.
You're like, I mean, first of all, in the sense, not in the, like, emotional maturity way, because clearly you've evolved, you've changed off so much about that part of your life.
Right.
But looking at you physically, you were still that 19-year-old.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
It boggles my mind that you're going to be 33.
Yeah, I'm old.
Now, granted, I can't say much. I just turned 43, and I get it all the time that I don't look it.
You don't.
Well, it's the I don't give a shit attitude.
I feel 33. Like,
I feel 87.
oh yeah. Well, I thought we were stopping at our age.
Oh, no.
I definitely like feel probably like 68 to be.
It's because, you're young. Whenever you're young, you do stupid stuff.
Well, I feel like I can still move. I can still keep up, but my knees. So that's why I say 68, because they're still moving,
The knees are usually the first to go.
Mine went a long time ago.
I mean, I had the back surgery 2 years ago, and that's why I feel like I'm actually, to be fair, I feel like I'm 867.
But like mentally, do you feel your age?
Oh God, no! Mentally, I range between 16 and 23.
Yeah, like sometimes I bring my son in public, and I'm like, ugh, everybody's gonna judge me.
The hard part. Whenever I was well, I guess technically I'm not single parent anymore, but like just a solo parent, and I take my kids out. I get a lot of the judging eyes, like you're like, oh, like being a dad is looked down upon whenever you're taking that kid to somewhere. Like, why isn't that kid with its mom? Like,
Right.
bitch, it's my time too.
Right. Right.
So it's hard. Being a parent, single parent, especially around your age, because see, Justice just turned 19.
Oh my God.
I know. And well, Aiden and Grayson are like 16 and 14.
I remember carrying her around the store.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, you think back, and it's one of those moments where being a single parent it's hard, especially whenever you're young and you have those, like, people are gonna judge me, people are gonna look down upon me.
right.
I was raised by one,
Yeah.
My mom was a single mom. I mean, even when she had a good for nothing husband, she basically did it on her own anyway.
Right.
So I have all the respect in the world for single moms. So I've never once looked down upon anybody. And the fact, whenever I found out that you were pregnant, I knew right away that, because I've always seen, well, we know, I've already told you, I knew what you were capable of long before you ever did. So I was really, I won't even say impressed that you are rocking it, because I already expected you to be doing as well as you're doing.
Thank you.
So that's just how I felt about it.
There wasn't like a thought in my head. I'm just like, I'm a mom. And like, I never thought to myself, and I don't know what this is about, but it wasn't until like recently kind of that I'm like, I'm a single mom. Like before that, it was just so I'm a mom.
Yeah.
And I think there, like you said, there's like a lot of stigma towards being like a single parent, and it is hard to like lose yourself in being a parent when you're a single parent. You don't have, the person at the end of the day to talk to, and you
Hmm.
don't have the person to like, of course I have my family, but it's just different. It's like you want, oh my God, he's potty trained, he went to the bathroom today. Yay. And then you guys like are doing it together or like
Hmm.
so tired. It's just like having that teamwork that is hard. So
It is hard not to have that, and I've always, whenever I went before I'd met my fiance, um, I had always done everything. I was single for years,
yeah,
and I think there was at some point that like you, I stopped viewing myself as like a single dad. I just viewed myself as dad,
right.
you know. So and it's easy, and I think it's easy to do because you get lost whenever you're doing it on your own. You get lost in just that role.
Right.
So, which now comes to my next question for you
Hmm.
is who is Jessie outside of being a mom?
I'm still figuring it out, but um me still figuring it out as my kid is walking downstairs for me. What is wrong? Okay. Okay. Um, all right, babe. I think that who I am as like, what do you mean? Help me narrow this down.
Okay. Okay. So, what is do you ever have night outs by yourself?
When I ask for them, my parents every
Oh,
single time say yes, without a doubt.
I mean, no, yeah, that's her grandkid, so of course they're gonna say
Yeah.
yes.
I think I'm just such in a transformation right now. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I am going through, how many people watch this? I'm telling all my business, but I feel like I'm
Depending on, I don't know, it depends. It could be hundreds or thousands.
okay. Well, anyone watching, don't judge me. I'm not a loner, but I'm just in a transitional phase in my life. I have my few friends that live out of state. I have like a friend in Georgia. I have a friend in Missouri. I have friends in Florida, but I have nobody here. I've learned in the last few months, like who I want in my life, who I don't want in my life. If I have this person in my life, whether it feels good sometimes it doesn't feel good all the time. And I think that people in your life should feel good all the time. There should never be like a doubt in your mind, like this person might be using me, or it should just flow naturally. And so I've had to reassess who was in my life and who wasn't in my life. I'm so sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
potty training.
Mhm.
So what I was saying was I think it's just I'm in such a transitional phase in my life trying to figure out because I'm turning 33 and as I mentioned, a few minutes ago, I had a really amazing man in my life. It didn't work out, but it did open my eyes to a lot of things. It opened I think sometimes get so lonely being a single parent that I accept people into my life. And I always heard of like the village. Like you have to have a
Mhm.
village, you have to have a village. Well, you can't just be a village for other people. You they have to reciprocate that. And so like,
True.
looking and this man opened my eyes to that um of you don't deserve that. I think there's things going on that like you're not I really try to give people the benefit of the doubt and I really try to see the good in people. And two things can be true at the same time. There can be good in that person, but there can also be things that just don't fit with your life. And I think that I forget sometimes that I'm in charge of my life and I don't have to accept certain things. So, like, when you're a village for somebody and they're not a village for you, that's sometimes hard in the.
Hold on a second, Beth. Hold on. For some reason, you're you had disconnected for a minute.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know, just there was a whole spinning thing, and it was like, "Hey, we're connecting," and I'm like, "Okay." So
I think
rewind. Go ahead.
I think that you have to be a village for people, but I think that they need to be one for you. And I think a lot of people that were in my life were not that for me. Um, I genuinely, I have all sisters. Like there's so many girls in my family, and I've always had long year wise, like relationships with women. All my friends are like 10, 15, 20 years. Um, And I really and maybe it's because I was raised by a mom who was like this, that we clap for everybody. Um, I was not raised by a mom that was they're jealous of you. You don't know what they're going home to. So I've always tried
Hmm.
to see the good in people. And yeah, I just, a lot of things didn't work for me and a lot of people in my life over the last like 3 months I've noticed are not supposed to be there. Um, so I think becoming okay with yourself and silence and it really forces you to look at your life. And I think that being alone is good. I think that not just relationships, friendships, you don't constantly have to be going out. You don't constantly have to be texting somebody or on FaceTime with somebody or anything. I think that you really learn to love yourself. And I think that good things will come when you learn to love yourself in silence. And I think that's where I've been at the last 2 or 3 months is shutting down the world, like not hanging out with people, seeing who's there for me, seeing who's not there for you. Um, what do I want in life? I want a husband. I want more children. I want to get married. Like, I want all these things. What are the steps that I have to take to get that? What unhealthy coping mechanisms or unhealthy things in my life do I have right now that will block me from getting those? And ultimately, it came down to certain people in my life and certain things. I have a habit of shutting down. And my biggest thing, and my mom always says this, is you do care because I'll go on a rant and cry and then at the end be like, but I don't care. So it's really hard for me sometimes to admit my faults and admit when I'm upset or, admit when someone's hurt me or, anything like that. And so my biggest thing is to shut that down. And I think this last 2 or 3 months, I've really come to terms with my feelings, and that a lot of things that have happened in the last few months, and even, my entire life, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I don't like that. So I'm like in a reflective state right now. I'm in like transformation. I'm thinking of what I want like my next 5 years to look like and what is blocking that. And I think I'm really learning about myself, taking this time to myself. So
I do. I agree with being able to be by yourself is very, very powerful, and it's very useful, and it's very needed. But the thing I learned, and I hope that you learn a lot earlier than I did, is it can be very dangerous because once you've gotten so used to quiet, solitude, and
yeah,
honestly, basically doing whatever you want, um, getting into a relationship afterwards, after that part, it's very difficult
yeah,
because then now you have to be like, now I there's going to be someone around that wants to talk all the time.
yeah,
And it's great in the beginning, like, hey, because especially like if you're, you get those moments that you crave, that you want. But then, there's that part of you that like, hey, remember whenever things were quiet? I miss that.
right,
And then you're like, this guy or this girl or like whatever, like they want to talk all the time, and I just want quiet. So you gotta be really careful with that, because it is a great thing until it's not,
right.
and then it becomes, detrimental.
See, I think that's and I'm sure you get it as a parent. You get so, especially doing it by yourself, you get so caught up in the routine
Mm-hmm.
of doing things. Um, and obviously I've dated, but I was like that before I had a child. I'm very routine oriented. I like things a certain way, and I have no problem doing it to make sure my house stays a certain way or anything. But a big thing with me is because I do struggle with depression. I've always struggled with it. I'm very good by myself, and I get very stuck once I've given myself too much time by myself. I get stuck in that. And thankfully, my sisters are my best friends, and my mom is one of the most amazing women you'll ever meet, and she recognizes that. Her and my sisters recognize that about me. And so I'll start to shut down, and they'll say like, "Why don't you come here?" "Oh, I don't want to." "Oh, I have this." And my mom is like, "Jessie, like, I think you're getting too in tune with your house and your bed." Like, like, "Why don't you come?" And I think becoming a mom, and I hate this. I hate when people say, "My child saved me," because what a responsibility to put on a child.
Mm-hmm.
But I truly believe that having a child saved me from some of my tendencies that I had. Um, Now I'm not able to just have a depressive episode and lay in bed for 3 days. I'm not
Yeah. Now you have to get up. You have to take care of the kid, and he's gonna say something really ridiculous, and then you're gonna have to laugh because it's funny, and then that ruins your whole depressive attitude.
right. And so it's like, what do they say? Like an object in motion stays in motion.
Yeah, yeah,
Depression can't hit a moving target. So
yeah.
you just got to keep going. And I think that having children really, I think that I hate saying, like I said, I hate saying it saved me, but I think that it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And
It helped transform you into a different person.
Right. And I think that it also healed something in me. I think that with, my son, like he's 3 now, and that's when you start having memories. And,
Hmm.
there's things in my childhood that I'm not comfortable, talking about but it has shaped me. And I don't think you can go to therapy, you can think about it, you can do all these things. I don't think it's until you have a child and your child reaches that age that you were when certain things happen that you start to feel so many more emotions about it. So like let's say you had trauma when you were 5 as a child, and your child is a 5-year-old, and you see this innocent child playing, and you see like just how wonderful they are, and you think like you start to get angry, you start like how could someone like do those things to me when I was this age? Because you look at yourself and then you look at your child and you think, oh my God, that was me. So I think you have a lot of emotions. But I think if you didn't like the way your parents parented, or disagreed with some of the things your parents did, or that's the beauty of being a parent is you get to take that, let it shape you, and think, I don't want my child to experience that.
Hmm.
This is what happened because I experienced that. And I don't want my child to ever feel like that. So I'm going to take that, use it as fuel, and make sure my child never has to go through something like that. And I think I've really shielded, I've tried to protect my child from some of the hurt that I went through early in my life. Like his father, not having him around because there's been instances of wanting to come in and be involved in everything. And then you sit there and you think like, how will this affect my child is it better to have an absent parent than a parent who's in and out? I think it's better to have a completely absent parent.
I can agree. My dad was in and out, and he's more out than in, but unless we were forced to be there.
Right. I
So,
think it weighs on a child. And even if they're young enough to not remember, I think it subconsciously sticks with them. And I think that it affects their psyche. I think they sit and they think like, why wasn't I good enough for my parent to be consistent in my life? Why wasn't, and I think that that's a lot for a child, and I think that's extremely unfair. Um, so
and that'll come a whole lot whenever you're older and he's older.
yeah.
It'll become a whole other kind of harder conversation whenever he's, in school, and
Oh yeah.
all his friends have,
I mean, we talk now.
both parents.
My my son, I know, and I probably sound like one of those moms that are like, my son is so smart. My son is so intelligent, whatever. But he is. And he sees things, he sees families. He's under the impression sometimes that my father is his dad. I think he sees a man and assumes that's a dad, so he's like, I have 3 dads. I'm like, you do? Um, so there are questions, and that's something I've spoken to my therapist about. I think it's don't make it difficult. And it weighs on me too because I'm sure you've felt this before in your life, like, oh my God, did I fail my child?
Yeah, actually, speaking of that, I can give you an instance of how that feeling can really come back. I was having a conversation with my daughter, and we was talking about her boyfriend, and I just, was like, hey, what would you say if, he ever proposed? And I won't leave that part out, but
Right.
roughly, she is not really for the idea. I mean, she's not really pro marriage right now because of like everyone around her as like are on their like second or third marriage.
Right.
And so she's nervous about it. And she, we had that conversation of what happened with me and her, her mom, and where I flat out finally told her, I was like, I was the bad guy. I was not the guy. I'm not the guy that you thought that I was all those years. And like after we had that conversation, I remember because it was on the drive home from work, and she went into her room, and I sat on the recliner, and I was like, I failed my daughter. I'm the reason why she does, she's not really wanting to get married. I'm the reason why she doesn't want kids right now.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, she's 19. I would hope that she isn't, in that whole marriage and kid having, phase. But if it lasted, I would be, yeah. I feel I take the blame for that, and I feel like I failed, and that's one of the worst feelings in the world. So yeah, no parent could ever want that.
But I think when I think a good parent is a parent who questions themselves. And I think if you're
Oh yeah.
not at the end of the day sitting there like, I could have done more. I could have been more.
Oh yeah.
I could have. I think that it's more alarming if you're not doing that. If you're not questioning
Yeah.
yourself. And I think, I mean, parents, right? Like
Mhm.
you talk to your parents and, hey, this really bothered me as a kid. It's all accountability. And I think sometimes that's all a child needs is accountability. And I know my son's only 3, but I eventually we're gonna hit a spot. I feel like everybody does with their parents of like you said with your daughter, you think that you failed her and she's probably not even like thinking that like in her head she's like my dad failed me. She's just subconsciously, she's collected data over the years and seen things and whatever but accountability like you saying, "Oh my god, did I do that?" I think that's really what a child needs. And a child, I'm talking like you could be 30, you're still the child in this scenario. I think sometimes because we are just living for our very first time, and our parents were living for the very first time, and they were parents for the very first time, and it's generational, they take things from every single generation. I think sometimes just hearing your parents say, I messed up, like it's validating. And I think it's healing. And I think that sometimes when your parents say that, it validates your feelings and you can move past it. You can move forward.
I can agree with that, but I also think it all depends on the parent, because my dad at some point years ago said I know I wasn't always the best father, and because I'm a smart aleck, I was like, go on, I won't stop you from finishing that phrase or that statement. I don't think I needed my dad to tell me that he wasn't the best father, because I'd known it my entire life. I didn't need it. I think he said it for him, but because it certainly wasn't for me, because me and my brother and my other siblings, I think we knew it. So,
Yeah, I think sometimes
but
it's very blatant, but like you pick up on some of the traits of your parents and then you
yes.
hear them talking sometimes. Like my parents, I have no complaints. Like I got very, very lucky. Um and like old school, like you have my mom who's very, very like carefree and
Mhm.
just like loves everybody and will hug a stranger, do anything for a stranger. Like she's literally like if you were to picture like sunshine in a person, that is my mother. Um, and then you look at my father, whose childhood wasn't as easy as my mom's. And he's very like conservative and he's very stoic. I think that's how I would explain my father. But he would do anything for you. So you like look, they're both wonderful, great people, would do anything for us, would do anything for anybody. But you look at their characteristics and then you hear them talking about my father's childhood. And you're like, in your head, you're like, that makes sense. And, then you listen to my mom talk and you hear her talking about her childhood and how amazing it was and how it was this. And you're like, that makes a lot of sense. And then you tell for example, you tell my mom, like, you're not listening to me. Just hearing, I'm so sorry. Like things like that. Just, I'm sorry. Or you tell my dad, hey, I'm a girl. I am not a soldier. Like, and then seeing them simmer down or being like, your emotions are valid. It was, whatever. And not using their childhood or their things in their life, their hard times are like, I don't know if I'm making sense. Like
No, you're making sense.
them not saying like, this is who I am, because a lot of people do that. That's just how I am. It's how I was raised. Getting validation from not just your parents, from literally anybody who's close to you or respects you, knowing that your feelings are validated and not just getting, this is who I am. Let me work on that. I feel like that's so respectful, and I feel like that like really shows that a person cares, and that's why it's really, really hard for me when I'm seeing the good in somebody. They could do something evil, and in the past they could do something, and then I would tell them, I'm sorry. Automatically, I'm like, they took accountability. But now the older I get, and now that it's not just me in my life, it's my son too. You got to think a little harder about it. But
Mhm.
to your daughter and my son, I think just hearing somebody question themselves and say, oh my God, did I do that? I think that's
It,
life changing.
you're right. I mean, I think a good parent always worries about if they're doing, enough, did the right thing, if they're giving their child enough. That is a good parent. I'm going to segue though, because you've mentioned it a couple times. Um, you've mentioned therapy. What was and I don't want to get too much into your therapy
Mhm.
because
Right.
it's your business, that's your personal time. But I've myself been to therapy. Um, what brought you to going to therapy, and and then the second part of that question is what makes um the right, or how do you know if you've got the right therapist?
So, what was the turning point for me? What made me start going to therapy? And this also plays into the other question. I have gone to a therapist since I was about 26. Um, Not consistently, in and out, and it was because I could not find the right one. And I think that I finally found the right one because she questioned me. She did not just let me talk and spew whatever delusion I was having, or um sometimes I was in the wrong. A lot of times I'm not in the right. A lot of I make mistakes. I'm human. And I think that was my thing with the therapist that I have now, was she was the first person other than like my family or, whatever, to say you're 100% in the wrong. And I'm like, oh my God, really? And she's questioning me. And I think that's a good therapist, is not someone who's just going to listen to you talk and be a friend to you. I don't need a friend. I want someone to help me. I want someone to contradict me, someone to tell me, no, Jessie, what you did was not, it doesn't match your morals. It doesn't match who you are as a person. So that's when I finally knew, oh my God, I found the right therapist. And she questioned me one time, and she's questioned me a few times. There's been a few instances like in the last few months where I've said, I took this person out of my life, and she's like 100%, and then things with, let's say, a guy or something, I'm talking to her and I'm like, I don't think that it's going to work. She's like, nope, you're talking with your ego. If you were in the wrong, you need to tell this person. If you were not in the wrong, then you need to respect this person's wishes. Like she's very, if someone says they need space, you give them space. If someone's in the wrong and you wholeheartedly believe that and it does not align with what you want in the future, then she's 100% for you. She always tells me no is a complete answer. It's a complete sentence. So if you don't want this person in your life, it's your life. Block them. You don't owe people an explanation. I think that that's something that I'm really learning in my life, is nothing huge and drastic has to happen for someone to not fit into my life. So she was the first person to question that. But what made me start going consistently was postpartum after having my son. I struggled extremely hard with not so much postpartum depression, but postpartum anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I knew that it was affecting my sleep. It was it was awful. I mean, but I have always had like this thing in my head about medication. Like you'll be labeled, you'll be all this. And it was to the point where I knew that I needed help. And so it was when my son was 6 weeks old that I went to a therapist consistently and got on medication and got the help I needed and became myself again.
I know there's that argument, about, medication or no medication. Like, I am in the firm belief that if it helps get you out of that realm or that area of your life, then, take the pill,
Yeah.
And I mean, and trust me, like, I know so many people that go down, the medication route. Finding the right dosage, finding the right medicine, that is very key.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of medicines that I was on that made me way more suicidal than I was before I wasn't even on it.
Yeah.
And that was bad then too. So, but
it's kind of like a therapist. Like you have to try a few. It's not always the right fit, the right dosage, even the right brand. Like sometimes you have to try, and it's a hard journey because sometimes it could take months to figure out this isn't working.
Absolutely.
But I think that it's something that a lot of people are ashamed to talk about. And I think that there's such a stigma around it. There shouldn't be. I think that everybody in some form struggles with depression, anxiety, anything like that. I think not just medication, but I think a therapist is good for everybody.
Yeah, I think I liked, like, I went through several therapists. I was able to find one that really helped get me through like the harder parts of the stuff that I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
I was super thankful, and I tell everyone. I've told my mom. I've told told my kids, and like all my friends. I'm like, I think everyone should at some point in their life go to therapy.
100%.
So
100%. I think there's, never mind, I don't want to say that. I think, I think that there's just, um, yeah,
that's the first time I've ever heard that phrase come out of your mouth.
I think that there's just, it's embarrassing sometimes, and I still to this day, like, I don't broadcast it, but I think people automatically assume, like, if you go to therapy or you're on medication, you're crazy. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's not that. I've struggled for years with diagnosed OCD, and it's something I cannot control. I've tried. They've given me things to do. Leave your house dirty for 2 days and see how your body acclimates. I don't know the difference between having dishes in my sink and being chased by a serial killer. Like, there's like, my body goes into fight or flight. I can't.
Oh, honey.
It's awful. So medication is for me.
To be fair, I knew you were OCD. I didn't realize it was that bad. I knew you were OCD because working with you, I may or may not have tortured you after finding that out.
I never forget you just constantly coming up behind me and just moving something. Immediately, I'm like, that was moved. Like, it was all the time. We're stocking cans and turning them all the right way. And Joe would come up and swipe the cans. And I'm like, and to turn the labels, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind.
To be fair, I still do that. And I remember that every time. Because I'm like, I'm waiting for somebody to have the reaction that you had a few times of just throwing something. I don't remember if it was at Joe, if it was at me, or it might have been both of us. But it like smacking Joe in the right in the back.
Wait, do you know what I was thinking about the other day? And now that so much
What?
time has passed, I'll admit to it.
Okay.
Do you remember we had like that promotion and it was like what was it? Every like $100 you spent or every $10 you spent, you got a sticker and they would
Yeah.
and you would get Tupperware.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Joe was like, Jessie, you're selling so much stuff. Like, we've sold so much Tupperware. Do you know that I thought it was by the dollar? Every single transaction, I got it. I just gave people this huge thing of Tupperware. I'd be like, oh my God, you guys spent $100. Here's a 12-piece of Tupperware. Tupperware, I'm so sorry. My parents got like
Oh well, they have like one store left. It's fine.
my parents got like three different things of them, like the whole kit, like the 12-pack.
I remember somebody saying something about that. I don't remember if it was Greg or somebody had said to me, like, I don't entirely know if Jessie understands how this promotion thing's working. And I was like,
No.
I don't care. I was like, I don't care.
But Joe
I was like,
was always like, I would say,
get him out of here. I was like, get this shit out of here. I don't want to see eat this Tupperware anymore.
I could do, but that was the problem. Was that Joe did not care what I did. Like, looking back
No,
now,
you were one of his favorites.
I literally would be like, Joe, I set the back room on fire. I could say that and he'd be like, you're pretty. You're all right. I'm like, all right, bye.
Yeah.
Joe, like, do you mind if I take this alcohol? Shut up. Go. I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah,
Good
I
times.
had fun. And Judy, my heart is so big about her. She's my
I still, speaking of Tupperware and Judy, I still have a Tupperware thing that she gave me because she'd made something, and
Yeah.
I had every intention of washing it and giving it back to her. And then about a week later, she had died,
Yeah.
and I still look at it. You know, guys, I'll still walk into the store and I'll look where the service desk was
Yeah.
and remember. Yeah,
Well, me and her
and
used to work up front together during the day. Remember that? And I
yeah,
remember, I don't know why, like, I don't know. Like, the easiest things I have the hardest time with. But the hard things I have the easiest time with. I don't know. But I will never forget me and her fighting over learning how to count a drawer. I'd count, she'd be like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean no? Like, me and her would fight. And I remember the day before I moved, I told her I'm thinking about moving. And she, sassy Judy, she was like, I don't care. Leave. And she's like, all right. I was like, Judy, this is the last time I'll ever see you. And she's like, all right, you know? And then she came over to me and handed me a $20 bill. And she was like, take it. I love you. And I was like, oh, all these years together. I love you too.
yeah. It's between losing Judy and Vaughn passed away years ago, and then Max, earlier this year.
Well, Vaughn made me very angry. So,
Well, to be fair, me and Vaughn didn't get along that well either, so.
it would be like a Friday night and I'd be wanting to go to like a party. And I'd be sitting there like, can you count my drawer? Count my drawer. And he'd take one penny and move it across the thing. I'm like, dude, like it is 8:30 on a Friday night. Start counting. Get it going. So I used to count my drawer and be like, I double checked it. And then Katie, she would most likely be going to the same party I was going to. And she was like up at the front. And so she's like, I counted it too. He's like, all right, well, if you say it's good, I'm like, bye. Like before they could even say anything, I was like out the door.
Yeah, I know. I remember many times I'd have a question for you, but where the fuck Jessie go? And I'd text you, like, hey, where are you? I'm driving down wherever, and I'm like, you left like 3 minutes ago. How are you there already?
I was out. Work
Yeah.
was not my thing. I did, but I didn't love it.
So, all right, we'll wrap this up. What does Jessie appreciate the most about her life right now,
I appreciate the most.
other than your son? Because that's the easy answer.
I think what I appreciate the most, obviously the people who are in my life, but I think what I appreciate more than anything is all the hardships. I think they taught me the biggest lessons more than what anyone could ever tell me. And I'm extremely grateful for even if something ended up going terribly wrong or, I think it made me who I am. And I think that it showed me how strong of a person I am and how good of a person I am too. And I think that that's what I'm most thankful for is all, not just the good, but all the bad as well. And I think that I'm extremely lucky to be able to say that because I think a lot of people can't. So I think that's it. I think that I learned so much and it made me who I am today. And that's something I'll always be grateful for.
Yeah, I always will say that, if you don't have the hardships, if you're not grateful for them, then you haven't really learned anything.
Yeah,
So,
I think that you sit there and you think like, God, I probably sound so conceited, but I'm not. But I think that after everything, after all the hardships, after everything good, everything bad, everything, someone has said about you negatively or whatever, I think that my morals have never changed. I've always remained an extreme loyalty is more important to me than anything. And I think I've always stayed loyal. I've always stayed kind. Um, the world has not hardened me. And so
That's a very rare thing.
I've always kept, a soft spot in my soul. I take everything, I look at everything, I'm extremely grateful for everything. Yeah, and I think it hardens a lot of people. But that's one thing I refuse to give up.
That's good.
Yeah.
I know that, as long as I've known you and I've seen literally maybe not every version of you, but I've been blessed to see, so much potential from whenever we first met, from all the little sassy attitude, teenage bullshit,
Okay.
to seeing this amazing mom who's doing everything she can, not just for her son, to make herself better. You've shown so much range and you've shown so much growth, and there's nothing more important to me than seeing the people that I've cared about from the minute that I met them to today.
Mm-hmm.
Is watching you just take every bit of struggle and putting it on your back and just keep going and realizing, hey, I need to talk to somebody. Going to therapy. I can do this single mom thing. You are the epitome of strength, and I don't think you hear that enough.
Thank you.
I mean, in life, I'm sure you've so many people have told you how pretty you are. While that's true, the most beautiful thing about you will always be your spirit and your smile, and you've refused to let any of that stop and fade away. So that will always make you the most breathtaking person in the room.
Thank you.
So you're very welcome, and I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story. And honestly, just getting to chat with you face to face, it has been such a blessing.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed that we had the opportunity to do this. And thank you for coming on the show. This is episode 99, and it's just one of those moments where I'm blessed that I've been able to have a lot of my friends on here, and to see some of them for the first time in a long time and have an hour and a half long conversation.
Yeah.
Like we used to.
Right?
So thank you very much again. I love you, and I'm so very proud of you.
Thank you. I love you too.
You're welcome.
All right.
So, well, everyone, thanks for getting inside Jessie's head, and we will check you later.
Bye.
What's up, guys? In Your Head with Shannon Standiford is a podcast where Shannon talks to everyday people with everyday problems. Everyone has a story, and every story should be told. So you listen right now to Shannon's podcast on Spotify and many other places, y'all. Come on, man. Be the light. Peace.
I want to thank Jessie for coming on the show. If you couldn't guess, I adore Jessie. I've known her since she was 17, 18, 19 years old. I don't remember exactly how long, but seeing somebody transform their life is just magical. And I am so proud of everything that she went through, because not only do you go through all that stuff that she went through, but the fact that she never let it dull her smile, never let it stop her from pushing forward, not just for her, but for her son. Her son is an amazing person, and doing this episode with a single mom much like doing an episode with a single dad, you see the struggles. And I left them in. Yes, there was some dead air, and a lot of people are afraid of dead air. And I get why, but it doesn't show the realism. The realistic part of being a single parent is a lot of the times you have to put what you're doing on hold to take care of your child. And that is one of the reasons why I keep these things in here, because yes, it would be a little difficult to edit all that stuff out. And yeah, the show would be a lot more polished, but that's not what life is. Life is messy, life is awkward, life is full of frustrations. But being a parent and being that little boy's mom, I was not going to disrespect her. I was going to show I'm going to show these parents, these single parents, their life, what it means, what happens. So Jessie, thank you. I love you. And to everyone that has been watching and listening to this podcast, thank you so much. 99 episodes in the bag. And the next one is the 100. And I'm excited for it. Because not a lot of... There's like 20... I think I read 20% of all podcasts make it past 100 episodes. And we're almost there. One, just gotta fill the time and the space to put together and to get together that episode to show you guys the people that I found on the internet, my safe space, my brothers, my sisters, and have a wonderful time just having a conversation, so you guys can see what we do on TikTok, much less the roasting sessions we have on our text chains. So anyway, Jessie, thank you. I love you. Your son's amazing. You're amazing. All of you that are watching and listening, if you're a single parent, if you're a parent in general, if you've gone through some stuff, I want you to know I see you, I recognize you, I appreciate you. You are the backbone of this world, and your contributions are not minimal. You are not just a parent. You're a badass. I love you all. Thanks again. I will never stop saying thank you. Out of the thousands and thousands of podcasts you're listening, you're watching this one, thank you so very much. All my love. Till next week.